Perfect. That's much better.
I figured that. I was like, oh, I need these headphones.
Now we talking. Happy
Okay.
New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you too. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna introduce myself one more time, y'all. So I'm so sorry, y'all, but I am Chastity Buckley. I am the host of the new Midnight R&B Edition page, and I am here, y'all, with the one and only best-selling author. I want to congratulate you on your book. We'll talk about that in a few.
Thank you.
With the 1/4 of a group I listened to when I was 11 years old, Prophet Jones. Mr. Clarence McNair, how are you today?
I'm good. It's been a long time.
Yeah, 20 years. How do you feel?
I feel like I felt 20 years ago. I feel good.
Oh, that's really good. God bless you. Thank you so much. And before we do start talking about your group and everything that's been going on with your life, I want to ask you, because 2020 has been such a crazy year, but now we're in a new year. So now we're in 2021. I wanted to ask you, how did you deal with the pandemic when it happened? And now, since we're in 2021, what is the things you and your family are dealing with since everything has happened?
I wrote a book.
Yes, I did. I seen that.
So the pandemic for me, it just took me back to a place during my time of transitioning
Right.
from being in Prophet Jones. And I just really took the time to tighten up my perspective, and I started to write a book. I wrote a book called Blessings in Uncertain Times. I actually spent a lot of time doing like interviews and talking to different people, just trying to help people with their perspective of what we was going through. So I spent the 2020 just really trying to help as much as I could, even when I might have been having my own, challenging days. I still took time and just focused on other people.
Yeah. I really understand it. I appreciate that. I know for me, myself, I had a lot of personal stuff going on. I lost my dad this year.
Oh, sorry.
And yeah, and my cousin on my dad's house, she lost her dad this year. So it was a lot for us going on last year. That was just so crazy. We were just trying to adjust to 2020, not knowingly that even though I was dealing with loss, then boom, the pandemic hit. So I had to learn how to adjust myself. So I truly know what you're going through. But like I said, the only way to get up out of, adversity is prayer.
Yes. So I gotta get you a book.
Yes, you do got to give me a book.
Yeah, we'll talk about the book.
Yes, I am excited to talk about your book, because when I seen your interview with Cora, I was just so amazed by her. And I didn't know she was TD Jakes' daughter, because I've been knowing TD Jakes. I live in Dallas, Texas currently right now, but I've been knowing my TD Jakes since I was 8 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was just amazed to hear your story and hear about your book. And I was just really excited, and I wanted to support you and just be so happy, because like I said, in these trying times, the book that you wrote, we're going through these times right now, and not knowingly that, hindsight, back then, 2020, everything was happening, everything you're saying. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that live with her. I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart, because I needed that.
Hey, no. I thank you for joining in. I mean, that was amazing. Her father was someone that during my most challenging, difficult times, he helped me get through a lot of dark days. So it was it was amazing for me years later to have TD Jakes' daughter write the foreword on my new book. So that was amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing. I mean, just knowing that now his kids are now following their father's footsteps. It's like, wow, I can't believe after all these years, when I listen to him, growing up listening to him, he has kids that are just amazing, just like him. Sarah too, she's dope. I just love all of them.
Definitely.
Yes. So now, since we are done talking about that, I want to get into your spiel about who you are, Mr. KD, and want to know about your story and how the way you got into Prophet Jones. So I know you're from Baltimore, Maryland.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you how it was growing up, because you got a lot of Baltimore fans on my page. So Baltimore is represented when it comes to singing, for real. And I also wanted to ask you about, and I wanted to ask you about that. And I want to ask you, how did you fall in love with R&B, and who were some of your inspirations when you were growing up, when you were listening to R&B at that time?
Well, I grew up in East Baltimore, in the inner cities of East Baltimore. And my mom, actually, me and my mother, we pretty much started this journey of entertainment together when I was 8 years old. We just started doing music. I actually entered my first talent show. And when I won my first talent show, the rest was history. We started traveling. This was before social media. So, you didn't have no social media. So we would go around and do talent shows, and I would try to win as many talent shows as I possibly could. And people started to talk in the community, and my mother actually started to really like believe, and I even started to really believe that this could actually be something that could be possible. So from the age 8 and years, we continued to do music and just doing talent shows. And then in like 96, now keep in mind, my mom was like pretty much bankrupt from maxing out all her credit cards and doing this was the time where you couldn't just log onto your cell phone and put posts out there. You had to really do the work. You had to get around. You had to do so much. So we just try to figure it out. And we got to our breaking point in like about 95, somewhere around like 95, 96, 96. We were for Sisters Only in Washington, D.C. And we met a guy by the name of Brian Dickens. He's a promoter. And he I think he was promoting Yolanda Adams. Wasn't quite sure, but my mother looked at him and she was like, "You look like somebody important." He had his Rolex on, and I didn't even know what a Rolex was at that time. He had diamonds on, and he had looked like money. So my mother walked up to him and she was like, "Oh, you look like somebody that's important. My son, he sings, and we just really trying to make it." We actually, I wonder, how did we get to DC? I don't know if we caught the bus. I don't know. I think we might have caught the Greyhound out of DC. So Brian actually was someone that was important. And it's crazy because like I went over there, he was talking to my mother. He was like, "Oh, wow, you support your son." And she said, "Yeah." He told us to meet him at Morgan State University the next day. And we met Vicky Winans and all these like celebrity people that I didn't even know. And so my mother, he's like, "I'm gonna connect you with someone, Stacy Ladisaw's brother." I didn't know who Stacy Ladisaw was. I found out later. But he connected us with Goldie, and then that was pretty much. I called up Goldie, and we had a conversation. Now it wasn't no social media, so I actually ended up losing his phone number.
What?
So
how did you lose his phone number?
Back in the days you had to write stuff on a sheet of paper.
Yeah, that's true.
So I lost his phone number, and it was like we lost it for like 4 months.
Wow.
And my mother was like, "Wait a minute." Like we was like cut off, like shut down. Like we was just thinking we was about to be on, and everything just went boom. So for 4 months we lost it, and we just left it alone. Well, and one day my mother was cleaning up, and she was looking in the china cabinet, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is the guy's phone number right here." She looked at the number, and then we called Goldie immediately, and he was like, "Man, I was looking for you, and we've been trying to find you." And then he came down to Baltimore, and we just really clicked. So Goldie's sister she put Puff Daddy in his first video he ever been in. She had mega hits, Stacy Ladisaw.
Yep.
Back in the days with Johnny Gill and Michael Jackson. And so when I met Goldie, man, it was just like, that was amazing for me. I mean, it was like I felt like I knew him most of my life, but it was a break for me and my mother because we was at the end of our rope. And I came from, most people end up dead or in jail.
Right.
So, my mother just supported me. When my father went to prison, my mother just, stepped in and just believed in me and just kept pushing. So when we found that phone number, we knew it was God, because there's no way that you should be able to find a number 4 months later sitting inside a china closet.
Yeah.
And when we got the number, it was just like, that was it. And that was like 96. So that's how I ended up in Prophet Jones. We actually called Majesty first.
Right. I heard that was your
Yeah.
former group named Majesty. And I
Yes.
know we were talking about Goldie. I know Goldie and Antonio Hollywood, they were in a group before Me to You. And I know, how did you like get to form with them and also form with Patrick? Because I know Patrick's from Florida. So how in the world did y'all all meet up together? Because I know y'all group was described Prophet Jones. I want you to talk about that and what was the name and the meeting of Prophet Jones. But how all four of y'all did meet up?
Crazy part is, yeah, they was in Me to You. Actually, Goldie, it's crazy because he put Wendy Williams in her first video in the 90s. Yeah, like my group member had Wendy Williams. That was her first time being on like a TV, like real video TV. And so we oh my God. So we was Majesty. If you go back on the Jamie Foxx Bass soundtrack, the song,
yeah, y'all were on there.
Yeah, that song was our demo song that was sent to the record company.
To Motown?
Yeah, well, when we first signed, we was with University Interscope. We was on Interscope first. And that first song we had on the Jamie Foxx Bay movie soundtrack, like Missy Elliott, and I think Nelly was on there, Fat Joe, whole bunch of people was on the movie soundtrack. And that same song was the song that Goldie sent. So when I met Goldie, he was with Hollywood. And they had somebody else in the group too, so it was already 3 guys. And I joined something that they already had kind of like was putting together. They didn't have a deal, they didn't have any of those things locked in. And I came in, and Goldie was, you know, in Hollywood. They accepted me in, and that was it. And then we met P. Rowe. Actually, we didn't find P. Rowe. The record label found P. Rowe.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah. So the A&R who discovered Prophet Jones, her name is Crystal Johnson. She was the first person to hear our demo at the time when, you know, when you gotta FedEx it up or mail it up.
That's the real. That's how you call real marketing. Real marketing.
Yeah. So Crystal Johnson discovered the group. Crystal Johnson then took it to Hawk Islam, who was the CEO of University, who discovered, he signed Drew Hill and Maya. And yeah, so when we got to New York City, I think it was Brother Don Muhammad. Shout out to Brother Don. You see, he's all on Instagram with everybody. Everybody loves Brother Don. You see him with Rick Ross. You see him with Minister Farrakhan. You see him, he's just everywhere. But Brother Don, I think it was Brother Don that found him. They was open. P-Row was opening up for Maya or something down in Florida, I think. And they brought him up. He from Tallahassee. So when we got to New York, they was like, we want to introduce y'all to somebody. And P-Row was real country. He had crease in his pants. He had some
Clarence, you can't do us country people like that. You know, I'm from Louisiana. You can't do us like that.
Well, no, we it's all country love, but he was the real country. Like, he had the, like, and when I met him, I was like, we talked and everything. And I was like, I'll get you a rollie. I was like, I'm gonna get you a rollie. So it was crazy, but that's how we got with P-Row, and the other member got changed out, and we put P-Row in the group, and that's how we formed at the time Majesty. Eventually turned Prophet Jones.
Right, and that is so amazing. I know when you were just talking about forming your group, Billboard, I had read an article said they compare y'all to the 21st Century Jodeci. So how do you feel that Billboard compare your group to like a Jodeci? Because y'all did give this Jodeci-esque vibe, but y'all also came with vocals, like with singing like the OJs, like Al Green, people like Drew Hill. How do you feel that Billboard did compare your group to a 21st Century Jodeci? Because the look at the time, it was like, it was R&B, but it was mostly like people that we could relate to from the hood. You get what I'm saying? So how did you feel that being compared to that by Jodeci back in those times when you were getting ready to come into a new millennium?
I actually remember that Billboard write-up. No, it was an honor. I mean, we had the soul, you know, actually during that time. I think it was the Jet. We was the top 10 Jet Soul, like Michael Jackson was in that list with us, and I was just like, sometimes I look at that and be like, nah, I wasn't mentioned nowhere near no Michael Jackson. They made a mistake, but no, we actually Jet Soul mentioned us as a hot new group, and Jay-Z was in that list. at that time with us. And so, no, it was amazing. I mean, that's the sound that we had. You listen to P. Rose's voice, it's just like, his voice is unbelievable. And
He
listen
gives
to
me Casey
Hollywood.
vibes. He gives me
Yeah,
Casey vibes.
it's wild, you know.
Yeah.
So you listen to Hollywood and Goldie, and I mean, so no, they were definitely. It was an honor.
And Clarence, you give me Michael McCray vibes because your bass voice is sick. And I was like, oh yeah, he's Michael from Boys Men. I'm like, you give me Michael all day. Like, how do you feel being compared to somebody from Boys Men in that group as well?
Well, I met Eddie Levert, and when we did the
Oh my
OJ's
God.
remakes.
We're going to talk about that. Oh my God.
Yeah, when we did the OJ's remake, Eddie Levert wanted to, you know, meet me because I was at I was at a show and he was there, and I mean, I was honored. Like, it was mind blowing, but I mean, it's all good. You know, it's all love. It's all love.
Right, right. And I do appreciate that. And we're going to talk about Cry Together because I'm going to be honest with you, out of all remake songs I've heard, y'all are the only group that remake Cry Together and did it justice.
Thank
Hollywood, he sounds just like Levert. I was like, whoa. I mean, am I listening to the OJs? I'm listening to Prophet Jones because it was so alike, but at the same time, it was a version that I love because it was in my age group. You get what I'm saying? And
you.
so listening to classics from the OJs, but a group like yours, like a Jodeci type of vibe, but at the same time as y'all were true to y'all vocals, that
Yeah,
meant a lot to me. And I was like, Cry Together, y'all did that song justice, and I was so proud of y'all.
yeah. That was we had Kevin Jackson down at Night Flight Studio. He
Mm-hmm.
played a big part in helping, like, with our vocals and everything.
Right.
And, it was real cool. You know, it was
Right.
really, really cool. Thank you so much.
Oh, anytime, anytime. So now, since we are talking about you getting your deal at Motown, and you are getting compared with Diana Ross and all the Supremes and everybody that has came into the Motown family, how did that process go during the time when you were doing the album? And I know you were working with Mr. Dare Delight. He did give y'all a shout out yesterday. That shout out to Mr. Dare
For
Delight.
real,
Yes, he did. He said
2,000
those are my
lives.
boys. I mean, Mr. Darrell, he
Yeah,
was working with Casey and JoJo at the time. I mean, with Silk, and now
yeah.
he's working with y'all. And then you got Gordon Chambers. I had no idea y'all had Gordon Chambers as y'all engineer. I
Wow.
interviewed him for Brandy for One Voice, and he
Really?
is, yes, I did. Yes, he is so
Gordon
amazing,
Chambers is, man, his resume is heavy. Like,
very heavy,
he's
and it's so
way,
iconic.
he's bigger in social media. Like,
Yes,
yeah, like he's one of those kind of guys where, like, you can have 100 million followers on
right.
Instagram, you still can't touch him. You
Yes,
know,
yes, very
he's
true.
he's written some hits, but yeah, I work with Gordon Chambers,
Tricky
and
Stewart.
yeah, yep. It's crazy because I remember being in the car with Tricky. He had, I guess, just brought a Porsche. And L.A. Reid has just invested into him, and he was expanding his studio out. And we did a song named Wolf. This was before, like, you know, now he's produced, Beyonce put a ring on it, and Rihanna's Umbrella and all this stuff
Yep.
he produced. Um, it's crazy, man. I mean, that guy is talented. And the light is interesting because at that time he had just produced Busta Rhymes and Janet Jackson
Yep.
record, and he had all the big hits on Silk and Gerald Levert. So, I mean, that right there was like, man, just being able to work with all those kind of people. And Gordon Chambers would work with people like Whitney Houston and you know, all of that kind of stuff. And we had some cool producers on it, Jazzy Faye. Oh my goodness, it's a lot. I can't even remember everything. And then, like, our A&R, he was cool. Brother Don, he was real cool. Brother Don always wore suits all the time, stayed fresh.
Oh.
Yeah, but nah, it was cool. Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing to have heavy hitters on your album. And I think for me, that just show you that they trust in you and believe in you, especially Motown, to put so many heavy hitters on your album. And not even that, I think at the time too, y'all were with I think was Profile with y'all. Y'all were all signed around the same time.
Yeah, so it was a lot of artists at Motown, and
Erica Badu.
yes. So I gotta say this too, like, Hawk Islam, he really would fight for us.
He did
At the company. You know, you know, I can't, when you talk about the music stuff, like my book things are just something separate. But when I talk about the group and the music, you know, if it wasn't for Hawk, Islam, I would not even been able to get in the music business. I mean, once the A&R got the music, he was the first person to sign us and give us an opportunity to get in the music business. And it wasn't easy. You know, he had to fight. Even when we was on Interscope, we was working under Steve Stout, who at the time, I think he was managing Nas, and then he was the president of Black Music. And it was a little rough over there, you know, with him and Hawk at that time. This was 20 years ago or so. But yeah, it was a little rough. So we left Interscope, and then we went over to Motown. We got to Motown one day. We was at the Zanzibar in Washington D.C. and Hawk was cool with Russell Simmons, him and Brother Don, and we was transitioning. We didn't even have a deal at the Interscope, so we was looking for a home to go to. And Russell Simmons was like always believed in us. He would give us clothes. We would go to his office. This when him and Kamora Lee Simmons was together. And we would go to the office, and Russell Simmons was the one that really helped put that Motown play together for Prophet Jones. We got to Motown thanks to Russell Simmons.
Right. Oh, that is really nice. And I know Russell Simmons discovered a lot of people, hip hop, R&B. He's just really, if you look at his resume, he has started a lot of stuff and transitioned people to be CEOs of where they at right now. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's just amazing that you honor him, and for him to help y'all out regardless of how big of an artist you were or how small of an artist you were, he helped people. And that's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? So now since we are...
Cool.
Yes, exactly. He seems like he is. So now since we get into the album, talk about Lifetime. Like, how did y'all get in the process of doing Lifetime? Like, that song right there really touches a lot of people. I don't know if you noticed, Clarence. I've seen a lot of the comments. So beautiful. One person said that this was their high school prom song. You had a lady, she got married off this song last year, 3 months ago. You had people had this as their wedding anthem. I don't know if I told you this, but I sent you a video where somebody had this as their first dance at their wedding. So how do you feel that people have loved your song Lifetime, and what was the process of making that song, and how did you feel when the song blew up?
Wow.
I'm telling you, you got some comments. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much. It's crazy because we made that song in Maryland at Night Flight Studio. And what happened was we was in New York City working with all these producers, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we ended up going down to Night Flight with Kevin Jackson, and we just came up with a vibe. And I'm telling you, like, when we was making that record, like, even during that time in the studio, like, studios just felt different. Like, the vibe it just felt like it was a spiritual move. It was bigger than music, like even when the chords was being created. And I think Kevin had some chord ideas, and we just started vibing with melodies, and Goldie had a melody, and it wasn't planned. It just, every time we would go in the studio, Kevin would be like, oh, I got an idea. And he was just playing chords, and you know, a lifetime is all that I need. And we just start putting it together. But during that process, it was amazing, because I remember when P-Row was in the studio and he was hitting those end notes to that song, like you could feel spirit. It wasn't just it was not just like a normal vocals. It was like you could feel the spirit coming through the speakers.
Yes.
So when everybody finished the recording and it was all mixed, it didn't even sound like a song. It sounded like angelic voices.
Aww.
So, and we were young, and everybody said, it was like, oh, that song is gonna be hot. Like, it's crazy, because I remember the first time I met Alicia Keys, she had what was her first song? When a Woman. When she was
talking about A Woman's Worth, or are you talking about Falling?
Falling, the first one, the one that blew her up. So we were at 106 in Park with Alicia Keys, and we was behind backstage waiting to go on, and I was talking to her, and like it was a moment, because I was like, wow, that's the first time we performed Lifetime on national TV was at 106 in Park. Shout out to Free and AJ for showing us love at that time. And like after, like, I saw 106 in Park like on TV, like, because I got to see it again. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, wow. I seen how people reacted. And then when we would do like our promo run, I mean, it was mind blowing. I was like, wow, music is powerful. Like, yeah. So when that record blew up, man, like, I gotta be honest, it felt like I had goosebumps every day. Like, I felt like I was high. Like, I was on a high that I can't even explain. It was just like, wow, this really happened. It was mind blowing.
That's so true. And a lot of people don't understand. It's like not only Lifetime was a #1 song on Billboard, but Cry Together was #8 on Billboard as well. Not
Yes.
even that, y'all record blew up so big, especially Prophet Jones, y'all first self-titled debut album, that the album jumped from 126 to 87. It was awarded the Payset Award. It jumped 37 spots. Like, y'all did numbers. And people, I want people to understand that at the end of the day, it's not all about, you know, you always going to #1 and this and that. But when you make an impact on people and make something resonate with people, it's going to stand the test of time. And I think people don't understand when I really realized and seeing about your artistry and your catalog, I was like, this is really amazing. They really have set the tone back in 2001, because the first time I heard Lifetime actually was in 2000. It was like late 2000. So
Wow.
shout out to Skip Cheatham in Dallas, Texas. He actually broke y'all song in Texas in 2000.
Wow.
So I didn't hear it in 2001. I heard it in 2000, late 2000.
I heard
So
that name before. Wow.
Skip Cheatham, yeah, he was he's a known radio person, but I think he's retired now in Dallas, Texas. But he used to run the show called Flavor TV, and so that's how I found out y'all song. And I was like, oh, this song's so beautiful. The video was a little bit different because I know when I seen the video, y'all look like Jodeci, y'all look like Casey, JoJo, Devontae, y'all look just like them. And it was crazy because it was like these dudes is dressed down, and you know the video is talking about, you know, wedding song, but the girl. But Pete Rowe took the girl because at the end of the day, she knew that she wanted to be with somebody else because her dude wasn't right. So it was interesting how the video kind of plays with the song, but you know that the song is talking about loving somebody that you're with for the rest of your life. And so for me, it just was amazing that I see this, but not even that, your album did numbers. And I want people to always know that you did do numbers in your catalog for Papa Jones. So that was amazing. You, Antonio, Jerome, and Patrick, y'all did great things in the beginning of 2001.
Yeah, thank you. It was, oh my God. When you look back, with all this stuff going on right now, you just be like, those was the good old days.
Yes.
No mask.
Yeah.
You know, you had to wash your hands 20 million times. You always had to wash your hands, but not 100 million times.
Right.
Life was different.
Yeah.
People were really in love. People were their authentic self. One of the reasons why we were able to create these songs, and even when you listen to Dru Hill, you listen to Jodeci, you listen to that music, you can't find that today because people are too busy going online looking for a self that they can put on.
Come on.
Instead of showing up, being yourself. When we were doing music, we couldn't be on our phones while you're in the studio. You're in the studio recording. Creativity is a real spiritual process. If you listen to all of the artists from back in the days, from the Erykah Badu's to the Jill Scotts to anybody, Marvin Gaye, it was a certain vibe and feel. And it's really hard to create that now because, for one, there's too many distractions. And when you're creating, you must be in a super like natural, organic, authentic space.
Yes.
So that, because when we were doing music, people brought into you. They didn't buy into, we need 10 Megan Thee Stallions. We need 5 this. We need 3 Cardi B's. No, we need you. And
that's right.
It was easy for people to buy into you because during that time, you had to be yourself to get on.
That's right.
You didn't have no, like, I couldn't be in the studio and go, oh, that was slick with such and such did while I'm on my phone. No, everything that you heard came from within.
Come on. That's so true.
No external influences. When you heard P-Row, Hollywood, Goldie, that was us. That was from within. That was real. That the music, we really felt this. Our whole personalities, it wasn't altered by Instagram posts.
Yeah.
It was us being 100% us. We were young and we just had our talent, and we just went in there and gave people what we had inside of us. So it's just amazing to have had an impact during that time, because I remember first time I met Master P, we was on Soul Train with Master P and Christine Milian, and I think Shamar Moore was hosting it at the time.
Yeah, he was.
Don Cornelius had took a break, and we was on Soul Train, and we met Master P backstage, and he was just, man, it was amazing, man. He was just, you could tell he was fresh out of the projects, and he had just became a multi billionaire, millionaire, and it was so cool meeting Master P when we was on the set at Soul Train, and everything was so authentic. You know, even when the first time I met Lala Anthony, I was on a game show. We was on a game show on BET with Lala Anthony. Like, this was when she was wearing baggy pants, and Lala was like, looked totally different, but everything was authentic. Everybody was just trying to make it at that time. And everything was just raw. We didn't have no social media. You just were who you are.
Right. That is so true.
Yeah, so being a part of that was like, wow, it was amazing, for real.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I agree with you 100%, because I feel a lot of authenticity is missing in music right now. And I feel like for us back then, when I was growing up, that's me and my friend JR, he's on the live right now. We were talking about how back then music was just feeling so authentic. Like, with artists, like, you get to buy into the artist, but at the same time as you understand that the music comes first. And I feel like now we're buying into the people's lives more than we are with the music. And I think that's kind of like a shift that's kind of messed up a lot of music, why music is not timeless to this day. And so with me, I just feel like listening to music like Prophet Jones or a Profile or Jodeci or something like that, it makes you understand that, like, wow, this is the music that I grew up on, makes me appreciate and love it more. But at the same time, is where is it now in 2021? You get what I'm saying?
You want to know something? The problem with music today and people, when I was coming up, it was cool to be broke. When I was coming up, it was cool to have a struggle story. When I was coming up, it was cool to go for an audition and not know how you're going to get back home. The reason why you have amazing talent like Beyonce and Jay-Z and stories like Tyler Perry and Oprah, because during that time, things were just so real. Now, if you go on social media, and there's so many people that's like, they may want to blow up like Beyonce, but that's going to be hard during this time we live in, to become somebody massive who built their career at a time where the world is authentic. And when you look at right now, you can go on a new artist page. They look rich. They already got a Bentley. They already got a Rolls Royce. You look at the females on Instagram. Everybody got red bottoms. Everybody rich already. Everybody got Fendi. Everybody got Chanel. When I was coming up, you had to become successful to afford those things.
Come on.
So we brought into the whole magical of being successful. It was like, oh my God, now people flying back and forth to LA, to Paris. When I grew up, I come from the inner cities. I grew up in the hood. And when you went to LA, it was like, wow, did you make it? Did somebody hit the lottery? We live in a culture that has taken away the mystique of success and tried to normalize a false reality.
Come on.
Everybody's rich. Everybody's traveling to Dubai. Like, during my time of coming up, and just with music artists, you had to really blow up. And you had the world behind you when you was blowing up. And that's why Cardi B blew up, because she was the closest that you could get to how we was 20 years ago.
Okay.
Cardi was real. And Cardi showed a lot of people that, hey, you could just be who you are. Cardi, when she was broke, she was broke. She talked about it and she shared her story. And, you know, because you got so many people on social media, they believe that having 1 million followers and all that stuff is like leaving behind some kind of legacy and impact in community. When we were doing music, music was more than just fame. Music had impact on people's lives. How do you impact somebody's life just from posting pictures with new clothes on?
Come on. Come on. Let these people know.
And
Let
I
them
mean,
know.
and, it's like I'm not even attacking anybody. I'm just being real. It's like, how do you leave an impact, and how do you motivate people on your Instagram if from top to bottom you look like you got $30 million already and no one's ever heard of you on social media, but you haven't done anything that's impactful. So that's the generation that we living in, where you got so many people who they may not even have the resume or the bio or the story to even back up what you're saying. And that's
Right.
what people call success. When we were coming up, it wasn't about being successful. It was about just doing what you love to do.
Yeah.
Success was the byproduct of your accomplishments. Now, you already successful when you log on to Instagram. You never been on the Billboard charts. You didn't work with Grammy producers. You
Come on.
wasn't on national movie soundtracks with Jamie Foxx. You wasn't a mention amongst A-listers. You didn't do nothing. You just got on some new shoes, a Range Rover, and you showing a big house. And then people are so dumbed down that if you just show them success, they believe it.
Yeah.
They want to follow it. And that has led us to a culture of people having a lot of anxiety and people not being able to be their authentic self. You understand? That killed authenticity. So
It did.
you can't be authentic when you have to keep up with what's on social media.
That's so true. That is so true, Mr. Clarence. I agree. And that's why I feel like now when everybody gets mad at me because I always go to my old classics, I'm like, this is what real music is. I mean, you can't get mad at me because I love authenticity. I'm just not with the facade. And that's just me in
Yeah.
general. So I want to also ask you too, because, I did say that Lifetime did go #1. How did it feel, like you said, you were on the charts with Michael Jackson at the time? He was with Invincible. I mean, you were on the charts with Aaliyah, God rest her soul. You were on the charts with her. You were on the charts with so many heavy hitters at the time that already had to create for their own lane. How was it, being #1 with the charts with them? And like I said, with Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson was on there too. So how did it feel being on the charts with all these people that you looked up to growing up, coming from where you came from? But at the same time, how does it feel that you leaving Lifetime as a legacy? I wanted to tell you too, I had seen a comment on Amazon. It was a lady. She had lost her husband, and I know she said Lifetime was their song they played back when they first got your CD. So when he passed away, this was their song they played. So how do you feel that Lifetime is really like a legacy that keeps going and going, and people use it as, a wedding song, as a person they love for the rest of their life? Like, how do you feel about that, that you were #1 and you were on the charts with all these icons?
I mean, it's overwhelming to even be mentioned in those same categories, but I will say this, like, I worked hard, and
Come
everybody
on.
else in my group, we worked hard. There were a lot of sacrifices. I remember my mother selling dinners, selling chicken, fish, us scraping up money to put on shows. I remember one time, like, I put my first album out in 1994. My mother was the executive producer. She used Capital One credit cards. We were selling dinners. I was performing just to raise the money, and it was so authentic. Community would come together. I remember my mother had I think it was 3 or 2 yellow school buses she rented out. She took the bus. People took the bus to go to my performances, and so when all of that stuff started paying off, I was like, man, God, I'm so grateful, and it was amazing. It really, really, really was amazing. And listen, when we was living in New York, we lived in a building where Luther Vandross had a friend. He used to come and visit sometimes. So I used to see
What?
we would see Luther Vandross on the elevator all the time. It was crazy when I was living in Manhattan. It was like 98, something like that. I was living in Manhattan. Then a Tin Man from the Wiz was living in our building. And
What? You had all these icons, so you were destined for greatness. Y'all were destined for greatness. Oh
phone.
no, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. Trust, I've had it too. No, I was just saying, Mr. Clarence, y'all were destined for greatness. You were around so many, I think, legends at the time. You didn't. I don't know if you understand this, but like I said, for Lifetime to be such a legendary song, in my opinion, and like I said, when I posted on my page, the reaction was so big, Clarence. It was crazy at a point where when I did, you know, hopefully tomorrow we're gonna be able to do your song. Uh-oh, we lost contact. I want the wheel spinning. Okay, yeah, I think he's gonna come back. I think it just froze. Okay. Okay, it froze. Let me see. I'm gonna have to. Okay, is it back on?
I'm sorry. I'm back.
Oh no, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. No, I was okay. I was just saying that y'all were destined for greatness because for me, looking back in Lifetime being such a legendary song, and I was telling you that we're getting ready to break down your song. So hopefully, with Price for Culture, they're gonna be the two guys. I'm gonna be doing the my R&B song relationship is one of my things I do where I break down classic hits and we
Uh,
break them down and we talk about what the lyrics mean to take today's society. And I'm just really like was shocked that, you know, your song Lifetime is my most watched song on my page. So I was like almost 700 people like that watched that song. So I'm like, what? Like, Prophet Jones? Like it was just shocking. But how do you feel like you were destined for greatness? That's how I feel about everything. You were destined for greatness.
Thank you. Um, I'm sorry. I'm actually checking something, but
It's okay. It's okay. I understand. Trust. My moments of my lives, it's a lot of stuff
yeah,
that
I'm
happens,
like,
so it's okay.
yeah, but no, okay. 1 second. Hold on. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sorry. So
It's okay.
repeat that one more time. I mean, not the whole thing.
No. I'm not gonna not everything, but no, I was just saying that you were destined for greatness. And I was saying that on my show, I'm getting ready to break down your group's lyrics for my radio. I mean my radio, my R&B song relationships. I do on my podcast called R&B Song Relationship, where I break down lyrics to classic hits. And I didn't know that your song was my most viewed song on my page. So I'm like, wow, everybody loves this song. So how do you feel that, you know, you're destined for greatness, but people still love Lifetime to this day?
Quality music. I mean, at the end of
Yep.
the day, people still listen to holiday songs by Nat King Cole that came
Mm.
out 40, 50 years ago. Think about this. During holiday times, most of the songs that's played, even on commercials, are songs that came out 30, 40 years ago
Yeah.
because of what was behind that music. It's hard to find that nowadays. So
Yeah.
when you listen to all of the holiday songs, even like Mariah Carey's Christmas song. I mean,
That's
like
forever gonna be number one.
yeah, these are big records, and it's just I mean, like I say, I'm just really blessed to be a part of a group
Mm-hmm.
that created great music.
Right.
And I'm also happy that we came in at the time that we came in when people were open to great music and
Yeah.
talent. So it was we as a culture, we was in a good place. We really was in a good place during the 2000s, you know, in the late 90s. We were in a good place just in terms of talent and music, and it was just amazing back then. And I just felt
Yeah.
like, sometimes it's not about what you're doing; it's about when you're doing it.
Come on. Yep.
Because sometimes you can have that same talent we had now, and people resist it. Versus during that time when culture was transitioning, people were experiencing new things. Love was different, life was different. We didn't have so many distractions.
Yeah.
And with having so many distractions, it started taking us further and further and further away from self and from our hearts. So it was
Yeah.
the time that we came out to that made it good. It was perfect timing.
It was very perfect timing. Like I said, for me, I love ballads and I'm a balladeer. I'm a softie for balladeer. So when I heard Lifetime and I heard this song, I was like, wow, whoever this group is, I'm like, I like them. I hope they stay forever. But, you know, at the time I had just moved to Louisiana, so I was transitioning myself to a new state. I was coming from Texas to Louisiana, so it was a big culture shock for me, and I was trying to adjust to new things and new, you know, blues and R&B in its own right. So after the success of Prophet Jones, I wanted to ask you because, in my personal opinion, I think I want to know what happened and, you know, why a second album was not made. But I think I have an inkling clue on what I think happened was because I know when the Twin Towers and everything did kind of shift the music culture a little bit, and I know it was kind of shaky at the time because your album did drop, I think, a week after September 11th. So when that happened, how did you feel when your album was successful, but then we have 9/11, and then after that, what happened after Cry Together and all those other things?
9/11 slowed us down.
Yeah.
We was getting ready to probably do like 10 million with the records we had. Yeah, when 9/11 hit, we was in San Francisco. And I never forget, I think me and Goldie, we shared a room. And man, when 9/11 hit, everybody was just like scared. Like at the time, we were under management with Will Smith's company, Overbrook. And we was managed, our day-to-day manager was this guy named John Dukakis. And his father was Michael Dukakis. He was the CEO of Amtrak, chairman or CEO. So he was able to get me a train ticket home because I wasn't getting on no airplane. But
okay,
everything started going left after 9/11. It really shut a lot of things down. And technology started to come in. And not only just like technology, like radio was changing, all kinds of things was happening. And then we had some internal issues going on within the group. So all of those things just really worked against us. Things started just to go downhill. And then after that, that was it. The group started like falling apart, back to back to back. It was crazy.
Man, and it's crazy because literally when y'all were in there, B2K was just coming afterward, y'all.
We was doing shows with B2K.
You were? No, y'all wasn't. Y'all was?
Yeah, I remember coming down to North Carolina and all that stuff, doing shows with B2K. Yeah, it was cool.
Oh my God. I never got to go any concerts when I was at it because my mom, she was very like, she sheltered me, so I was very sheltered. So I didn't get a chance to like go to any concerts until I was like, I think 16, 17. And so I know at that time, you know, for me, I love groups. I love R&B groups, period. I love Boys and Men. They're one of my favorite groups. But I know at the time, you know, when BTK was coming out, I mean, it was like, you know, a new era. And then too, I forgot to ask, y'all were also coming out around when Jagged Edge, Let's Get Married. So y'all were competing with them as well. So it was like, we got these classic wedding songs that's coming boom, 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 boom. And then when 9/11 hits, it just stops. It just stopped.
It was crazy.
Yeah. That is so crazy to me. But yeah, I wanted to always know what happened to the second album because I was ready for another Prophet Jones and everything just stopped.
And then the group started having internal issues and Motown pulled the plug and it just was like,
oh, I hate that because I was ready for an album.
Oh, my boy Breezy on here.
Oh, hey.
R&B King, Jay Breezy.
Oh, hey, y'all. So, I mean, you know what, regardless of anything, though, Mr. Clarence, y'all really made an impact with people like myself and just people in general. We love you to this day. I mean, I have seen the comments. Prophet Jones is forever, always in our hearts. So, I want you to always know that.
My OG just got on live. Sherman Byers, him and his brother Mark Byers. They are actually, so we did a song with Eve. And, like, at that time, Eve was the biggest female rapper in the world. She was. And Mark and Sherman Byers, they had Eve, and they was working with all of them. It was him, Troy Carter, Sherman Byers, and Mark Byers. They all was working together. So Sherman and Mark, his brother, man, they was the power players in Philly. Like, this was way before any Mink Mills, all that stuff. Like, like they was the real guys in Philly. And him and his brother, they actually got us a collaboration with Eve. And then we did a performance where Eve introduced us and brought us out. So, you know, that was cool working with Eve and just actually the Byers brothers, like they set up a meeting with us with like Jimmy Iovine and all of that stuff. Like they done a lot for us. So man, it's like salute OG on here. So yeah, we got, it's crazy. We was in Jamaica. We got a lot of crazy stories.
I know y'all got some crazy stories and these fans and everything.
Yeah, we was in Jamaica, and they had to maneuver some stuff over there. But yeah.
That's amazing. So now 20 years later, now your life has changed since Prophet Jones, the group Prophet Jones, and now you have a family of your own, and you became a best-selling author. So I want you to talk about to the audience about your life now and what have you done with your books and everything since after the industry.
It's crazy because I never intended on being an author, writing books. I just always had, like, people would come to me for advice, and I would just like try to give them solutions. And I just always had, like, in me, I always loved helping people. Yeah. So when the deal ended, I was in a position where I started like experiencing like a lot of challenges and ups and downs and things like that. And throughout my journey, I was like, man, you gotta give it one more try. Like, you can't quit, you can't give it up. And that's where this book was birthed. Give it one more try. And this book right here was a best-selling book. And this book came as a result of like just some years in between from after the Motown days to just, you know, you get to a place where if once being a music artist, you're traveling, you're doing something that you love to do, and then you in a position where you trying to figure out what your next move is. So that put a lot of stress on me and things like that. But I would constantly tell myself not to give up. You know, you got to keep going. Like, I grew up where I seen my mother, we didn't have much, but she figured out how to put food on the table. And, you know, we didn't grow up with money, and we survived. We didn't even have a car at one point. And we just made do with what we had. So when I hit my roughest places and my darkest moments, like, it was my faith that kept me up. But I also had examples of people who, growing up with minimum, who knew how to take minimum and make the best out of it. So after the group, I started looking at my situation and just trying to figure out how I can get back up on my feet and get going. So I would tell myself to give it one more try. And it's crazy because that was years. So about a year and a half ago, whatever, I got an award from the mayor from doing this book and just my whole journey and everything. So that's how I birthed this first book, Give It One More Try. And it's definitely a good book. I recommend anybody that's going through some challenges or you just need some extra motivation, go to get this book. It's at Walmart.com, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and where all books are sold.
Yes, I'm so happy. I love your story. And that's why I said too, I wanted to tell you, Clarence, that I know for me growing up, when I did hear your story, when I was watching Horrors, and the year you told me, I was like, oh my God, I was going through so much at the time. I had just graduated high school myself, and I actually, death was coming knocking my door, and I didn't even know it myself. I had just lost my uncle a month after I had got out of a relationship, and then 2 of my cousins were murdered, and then my mom dies a month after I graduated high school, and it was rough. It was rough for me. Wow. And I see for myself that, you know, I was like, wow, well, listening to your story, understanding for you went through, like, TD Jakes was like a calling. I know for my life, I knew my mom didn't want me to be, you know, sad, because it was moments in my life I wanted to take my life. But I just knew for myself it was greater for me. You know what I'm saying? I had to get out of that dark place. And so seeing stuff like that and listening to your story had made me understand, like, wow, you know, there is a light after the tunnel. And so after that, I went back to school. I got my bachelor's, I got my master's, and I did something with myself. And so that made me change a lot. Now, I really appreciate you tell your story, because a lot of people can understand for you, but it could also be relatable because you're not the only one that's alone. People go through things too.
Yeah, and then another thing I talked about in a prior interview, okay, we work so hard. That's why, like, I really, like, honor people like a Sherman Byers and those guys who've been in the business for a long time, who got the wisdom. What people fail to realize, you work so hard to get somewhere, whether it's music, no matter what kind of business you're in. I think people are forgetting that there are people who've walked that road before you. People, for some reason, like, people think because we living in new times, things change. Things don't change.
Come on.
People, the rules to the industry is the same that has always been. It's just that maybe the systems that are in place for people to receive and how people do business now in terms of the technologies and all of that. But if that's the case, you wouldn't have a lot of the executives in the music business, you know, older executives, even if they have a younger person to keep them in touch with the young culture, you still have somebody that's seasoned. And
Yeah.
when I got in the record business, as hard as me and my mother worked, we would read books. We would try to educate ourselves. I remember my mother met Matthew Knowles, and she would speak with Matthew Knowles on different things. And at the time, Destiny's Child was coming up.
Yeah, y'all were back what with on the charts. You were with them too.
Yeah, yep. So we did not have the insight. We would read books and go to seminars, but we didn't have the insight. Yeah. And one of the biggest things that hurted me the most wasn't so much on what happened with the group. It was not having the insight to handle the music industry, to handle when things don't go the way that you thought that they would go. Right. And that's why I tell people it's very, very important to have a mentor. I don't care what kind of business you're in. I don't care what you do. You could be a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer. You need a mentor. You need somebody who's walked that road, that saw both sides. So I think like right now we live in times where everybody, unfortunately, sometimes people feel like they got it figured all out. Like it's hard to tell people stuff because most of the time people focus is just success. But are you prepared if you go from being on top of the world to hitting zero again? And that's a reality that most people really like. Social media make you think no one can ever fall off. You can have $100 million and it's 2021 and in 2029 you could be broke.
Come on, yes.
But social media doesn't present it that way.
Yeah.
Social media have you thinking once you make it, you just stuck there because people now it's like they see the lifestyle.
Yeah.
But success and lifestyle is two different things. Like you can have your things that you purchase with the money you made, but being able to sustain that and have that money coming in, that's generated by staying at a certain level of success.
Right.
So that's why I like that. So that was the hardest thing, just not having them to the mentor and knowing the value of the people around you. It was hard. We didn't know. You know, I remember seeing Sherman Byers. He would argue with the label sometime, him and his brother Mark, just to try to get things together. I had no clue of what they was doing. I just knew that they was trying to get things together. But being young at that time, and you know, I didn't even know what I had. I was young. I came from a family that never had that kind of success, or you know, I meet people like Patti LaBelle and all this crazy. Being in parties, I remember we went to a party and Jay-Z was there, Mike Tyson was there. It was Maya's platinum party, and you know, it was all new experiences. So when we talk about what happened and some of the most challenging parts, some of those things we had mentors, and I even understood the value of a mentor at that time, and really knowing how to allow someone to lead me. A lot of things what could have been avoided, but the catch to that is sometimes God allows you to go through these puzzles because you going through these puzzles with no roadmap and no flashlight, and you taking everything as they approach you. You moving in the dark. Sometimes you go through those things because when you get to the end of that maze, everything that you endured is going to be a blessing to somebody else.
Yeah.
So at some point, I just like, wow, like everything that I experienced wasn't even for me. And that's what helped me get out of a dark place. When I started to look at my situation and I started to take the attention off myself and start looking at other people. Because sometimes in life we go through things in life, we hit our head, we have falls, we get in these dark places, and it's like we carrying a mirror around all day looking at ourselves in the mirror.
Yeah.
And when I stop looking at myself and I start turning my attention to other people, and I start working on my perspective of what I actually had, even though the deals was gone, we blow $5,000 and $10,000. We would go in a check cashing place. My group member Hollywood would go and cash a $14,000 check in a liquor store like crazy.
What?
Yeah, we was doing crazy stuff.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so like, even though all that stuff was ceased at that time, just eventually I just got to a place where I said, somebody will benefit from my story. And I started to write. And and that's where I'm at now.
Oh, I really appreciate that. That's why I'm so happy that I do my platform is to tell everybody's story, because I've always, and I told Mr. Darrell like this on our interview with Casey and JoJo, I said, I don't care if you have one hit, and y'all didn't have one hit, y'all had 2 hits. So let it be known, y'all didn't have one hit, y'all had 2. Cry Together was a hit too. A remake, regardless, is still a hit. For me, I told Mr. Darrell, like, I was like, I don't care what hit you had or something like that, and you impacted music, especially our culture, you are on my platform forever. And I feel like for me, when it comes down to just people's legacies, I always want to honor people's legacies regardless of how many albums you made or anything. Because look at Lauryn Hill, she made 1 album and it's still a classic to this day. And so for me, a group like yours, Prophet Jones, I always want to know what happened with y'all, what was going on at that time, but I always wanted to honor your group because it did something for me at 11 years old. For me, watching a little music video in Dallas, Texas, looking at these guys singing this song, talking about a wedding that hopefully one day I get married, I get a wedding song like that. It just did something to my heart. And I'm really just happy that your group really did impact somebody like me at 11 years old. And I'm very thankful for that.
No, thank you so much. I mean, that means a lot. It's been a long journey, and my whole goal right now is to keep using what I learned and help empower others. And it's just been so cool with me taking the lessons that I learned, being able to give them, whether it's a reality star, whether it don't matter who it is. Like I've worked with some reality people, some music people. Actually, I did some work for Brooklyn Johnny. He's a young brother that brought Cardi B to Atlantic Records.
Wow.
And so he was a client, and he was involved with getting Cardi B her record deal.
Wow.
So I had did some work for him, and just think about it. Like he was helped get Cardi B a record deal, and I was in the music business in the 90s, and my experience and just my skill in relationships was still relevant enough to get hired by the young man who signed Cardi B.
Yeah.
One of the biggest female rappers of this time.
Exactly. Very true.
And other talents and things like that. So I'm just really, really grateful. And I was so happy with the closing of last year about my new book, because having Core on this book was just so cool. And this book right here, I really recommend this book to like everybody, like Blessings in Uncertain Time, because outside of like the pandemic, I know for me, I grew up in the inner cities of Baltimore, and my whole entire life has been uncertain. Like being young, you come from family where they don't know all the time how they're gonna pay bills and just try to survive and struggle. So I've seen uncertain times growing up. So when this pandemic hit, you heard people's like, it's so much uncertainty. I'm like, well, who are they talking about? Because where I came from, everybody around where I grew up in uncertainty.
Come on.
So during these times of global uncertainty, I felt like what I saw, what I learned growing up, and just me trusting God through the process would have some kind of value. And God gave me the words to write. It took me 4 months to write Blessings in Uncertain Time. And when I reached out to Core, it was like, boom, it happened. I knew God was in control. So, man, I'm just so grateful for you guys. I'm grateful for my group, the guys, Prophet Jones, people like Sherman Byers and Mark Byers, and even Brother Don and Hawk, and everybody who played a part during that time. So it was a blessing, man. You know, music is forever.
Yes.
Forever.
Yes, and I'm just so happy about that, Mr. Clarence. And I do want to ask you if you can describe one word from your self-titled debut album with your group for Papa Jones, what would it be? I have a word for it.
One word from the album. What will it be?
I would. Well, which one?
Hungry. We were hungry. With that voices that you heard, like we were young. We wanted to touch the world. It was a hungry soul, not for success. It was a hunger to be heard.
I love that. I would say Lifetime. For me, because of your classic song, this album was definitely a lifetime. I think somebody like myself, because I was such a young girl listening to all this music at the same time as your song gravitates to people, your group song, excuse me, gravitates to people so much that I think it does something to people that, you know, for it to be somebody's prom song or somebody's wedding song, or not even just that, the thing about it is, to me, impacted me, and 20 years later, I can still remember this song and like, I know who this group is. It goes to show you that you mean something to R&B culture and just us in general. You get what I'm saying? So for me, I would say this album is a lifetime. It really is. And like I said, 20 years later, for us talking about it to this day, I think that's just so great and amazing. And I just want to shout your group members out, Antonio, Jerome, and Patrick. Like, thank them so much for this beautiful classic album, because this album really did touch a lot of people regardless of what happened to y'all. Y'all still hold impact to this day. Y'all are definitely compared to Jodeci, because y'all do give me those Jodeci vibes. But for me, I really do think this album. Let me be honest with you, Mr. Clarence. I was not a Jodeci fan.
We used to listen to Jodeci all the time.
Are you serious? I was not a Jodeci fan. Well, you know what, Clarence, I'm gonna be honest with you, because I was like, I think 2 when they came out. I didn't know who they was. Yeah. So for me, Casey and JoJo was the people who I heard, and then after that, it was Jodeci. So it's so weird how it was backwards. But to be compared to a group like Jodeci, that speaks volumes, and that's huge for y'all.
No, definitely. Hey, we somebody was like, people be asking me, are y'all gonna put more music out?
Yes, we is ready.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I got my book on iTunes right now and all that, but I don't know. You know, I don't know if that will happen, but no matter what, it was a great time working with the guys in the group. And man, we was like, the group was crazy before like social media. I always tell it, like me and Goldie, we go, man, if we had Instagram, whew,
oh yeah,
we was some crazy people. I mean, I remember when we would be two-waying Russell Simmons from our two ways, and like we had 2 rollies on my wrist and a flip phone and Louis, and we worked with. I remember we was in the studio with Eddie F, who produced
Eddie F.
Left Eye and Donnell Jones and all those people. Mm-hmm. And I had like money in one pocket, money in the other pocket. I had a two-way, two ways, 2 rollies on, iced out, all that, you know, bling bling, and we was just fly, man. So it was real cool to have those experiences with the boys, and everything was good. But I really appreciate you having me on the show today. This was a cool interview. I really, really appreciate you.
Oh, anytime. Thank you so much. And I wanted to ask you too, before we do get off, do you have anything else that's coming up in 2021 that you would love to promote with Blessings on Uncertain Times, and anything else that you want to talk about, like before we do get off the line?
Well, real quick, make sure y'all go out and get this book, Blessings in Uncertain Times. Like, y'all gotta get this book. Like, it's on Amazon right now. You got the paper copy, the hardback. It's Kindle version, but y'all need to go and get this book. I mean, it's a lot going on right now, and this book, I feel, is a reminder that God is always present. no matter what you're going through. And it's a lot of relatable content in this book. So that's my focus right now.
Do you still talk to your group members? I don't mean to cut you off. Do you still talk to all of y'all? Are y'all all still in contact?
Yeah, well, yeah, I talk to Goldie the most, but no, I talk to them. Yeah, like I see P-Row, doing his thing in Hollywood, keeping everybody laughing and joking and stuff like that.
That's
But yeah. So we stay in touch. We just we in our own different worlds now. But what we created doesn't matter how far apart we all are. Where we are in our lives, what we created will always keep us together.
Yeah. And that's amazing.
Yes.
That is amazing. And I want to shout, and you know what, since you were talking about Lioness Envy, I want to shout your mom out because your mom really, really is a true testament of a dedicated mother that really loves her child. And I want to respect that so much because I'm a huge Brandy fan. And so I know how at the time when Brandy was getting through or whatever like that, her mom was there for her. Her parents were really there. So I really appreciate that your mom really did go for your dreams and pretty much honored you and wanted to always make sure that you had a successful career. So shout out to your mama.
Hey, my mom, man, she made it happen.
She sure did.
With no resources.
That's amazing.
No Google, no YouTube, no cell phone. Just
genuine research.
Yep. Just trying to figure it out, and we just had faith, and we just figured it out.
Thank you so much. Well, do you have any last words before we do end our live? Because this was just a great, beautiful conversation. I want to thank you so much for the 20th anniversary of your group's album. Well, it's going to be in September, but I still want to honor it because I remember it to this day. So I want to thank you so much, and just any shout outs you would like to give out.
Just shout out. Oh, I got to shout out my cousin Nathaniel. My little brother, he a producer. He doing a lot of things. Woo the one. Man, shout out to everybody who played a part in the Prophet Jones project. That's pretty much. Like, I just want everybody to go stay in 2021. Just really work on yourself. Just work on yourself. And sometimes when you home cooking or whatever, or you going out, or you with your lady, play that Lifetime.
Okay.
On that album. And go on iTunes. The album is on iTunes.
Yep.
You could go and listen to Prophet Jones and make sure
Spotify is
everywhere. Books on Amazon.
Yes, and I'm definitely gonna put it on my Insta story to promote to make sure everybody does do it. But Mr. Clarence, thank you so much, and I appreciate everything what you've done for R&B culture, for your group, and thank you so much for sharing your story about how you made it through any uncertain times, because I know we're living in uncertain times, but I know your book is going to help us get through life struggles. So thank you so much for this, and y'all, and thank you so much for joining us live. Also tomorrow, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe Sunday, I'm gonna make sure everything's correct. We are going to be actually celebrating the 20th anniversary of Prophet Jones' song Lifetime with Christ for Culture. They're actually in the live right now, so they're watching Mr. Clarence. They're going to be breaking down your lyrics to your groups of songs. So we're excited to do that. We want to figure out, we want to figure out what's going on and what did Lifetime mean back then, but now what does it mean to today's society? So y'all get to join me for my new R&B song Relationships. Season 1, episode 1 is going to be Prophet Jones' song Lifetime. What does it mean to have a lifetime? Thank you so much. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart, Clarence. And hopefully tomorrow you get to watch us. We're going to break down your lyrics. We're going to find out what y'all was talking about in these lyrics.
I'm looking forward to going back looking at this live.
Yes, I am too. Thank you so much. And God bless you guys.